About ready to get rolling. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Fall 2024 Virtual Fabric Show. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Stephanie Sheridan, and I will be your host today. A few things before we get started with our panelist discussions. The collections you see here today are from our Summer and Fall 2024 release. Most of these collections won't be available for you to purchase in your local quilt shop until sometime later this year or through mid-year next year. So when you fall in love with one of them, be sure to visit your local quilt shop and let them know that you saw the collection here at Virtual Fabric Show and encourage them to order the fabrics either through their local sales rep, online, or through one of our many distributors worldwide. Secondly, if you have any questions during the presentations, please put them in the Q&A box that you see on the bottom of your screen. Use the chat box to say hi or to, lots of people are saying hi. That's fantastic. To say hi or make any comments, but be sure to put your questions in the Q&A box so that I can read them at the end of the session today. Be sure to visit our website, which is benartex.com, to see all of these collections and more. And let's see, what else did I have on my list? Oh, and I think actually I covered everything. So now it's time to go ahead and get started with our panelist presentations. So we're going to start our show today with Ann Lauer, introducing us to her latest fabric adventure. The beautifully depicted wildlife and unique textures in this collection make it a perfect choice for any rustic yet sophisticated project. First, we're going to show a quick video of the fabrics, and then we'll hear from Ann all about them. All right, Anne, let's hear about these amazing fabrics.
Oh my gosh, that was beautiful. Wow, what a job. I loved it. So, as Stephanie said, I'm Ann Lauer, and my company is Grizzly Gulch Gallery. We are in the mountains, Rocky Mountains, about 1,000 feet higher than Helena, Montana. And in Montana, the ravines between the mountains are called gulches. So, we happen to be in Grizzly Gulch. So, if I'm in town and somebody says, "Where do you live?" and I say, "Up Grizzly Gulch," they know exactly what I'm talking about. There are lots of gulches, and we had lived here not too long before we were tootling around in the mountains and just checking out where we lived, and we ran across Dead Man's Gulch. Now, what if we'd found a house on Dead Man's Gulch? How would you like that for an address? So we'll stick with Grizzly Gulch. So I am really excited, if we can start with that first slide, I'm really excited to introduce my brand new collection called Into the Wild, because this is where we live, in the wild. And we have some photos next of animals that we see in our yard frequently. So the upper left is a spotted mule deer fawn. There were two does that had twins this year, and it was great fun watching those twins play, as well as lots of other single fawns. We've had a couple of red foxes hanging around much of the winter, and this little fawn on the bottom just kind of walked up on our ground level deck just to see what's going on. Next. And then this is really exciting. So we'd seen a glimpse and heard of other neighbors that had seen a moose in the area, but they're really shy. You don't see them very often. And this is a little road that connects our homes in this little neighborhood. And I looked out the window one day, and by gosh, here's a cow moose walking down this little road with her two yearling calves behind her. And then she crossed in the bottom when she crossed into our yard and hung out under some trees for a while. And I thought, my goodness, I wonder how many times I haven't noticed that. We didn't look out at the right time. But anyway, that's where we live. Next. So here's the two really important parts of the collection, but I first want to read what Ruth Beck, who's the senior art director of the Benartex Art Studio, how she describes this collection. Capture the mountain spirit with the Into the Wild, the newest fabric adventure by Ann Lauer of Grizzly Gulch Gallery. The beauty of mountain peaks sets the stage for animal portraits that express in the true nature of the forest and the deep forest. This collection goes beyond the boundaries of realistic wildlife by portraying mountain animals within sets of mountains and forest. Companion prints and a modern mix of geometric prints add a modern touch to this collection. Into the Wild is cabin friendly, as well as a perfect choice for rustic home decor or anyone who enjoys the outdoors. So you look now, I mean, she said it. So here you go, realistic animals decorated with mountains and wildlife, and I mean, pine trees. And then these panels have these 6 different animals we'll show in detail in a minute. And then the stripe at the top and the bottom is from the stripe fabric. So it is a scenic stripe, and the animals are in silhouette against those same mountains. So you can cut a section of the stripe and put it on each side of the panel, or the stripe can be used with geometric on both sides or one side, or however you want to do it. You can get, because there are 8 scenic stripes and there are 9 of the geometric, you can border a quilt, all 4 borders, with just one length of fabric. Next. So here's some close-ups of the block. So we've got a bear and a moose. And when you cut a block for a 10-inch block, you're going to get that geometric border all around it. And then for a 9-inch block, you'll get that black border around it. So it works well for both of those. Next. So we've got a wolf and a bear in this one. And one of the things that's so really rewarding in working with Benartex Art Studio is that they go to an enormous amount of time, effort, and actually cost to make sure that these fabrics are just the way their designers want them. I've heard that some companies have designers who give them the inspiration, and then they kind of take over, and then the designer sees it at the end. But Benartex works with us every step of the way. I get in every new collection, I'll get several times, I'll get paper images in the mail, because you just can't tell color or scale or value from a computer screen. Next. So it just, the amount of effort they go to make sure that the fabric is the way we want it is absolutely incredible. And here in the last two blocks, we have a buck mule deer and a bull elk on the right. So anyway, I just, even the texture in the animals, I think is really, really fun. Next. Here's a close-up of the stripe, so you really get a feel for that animal silhouettes against the mountains that have texture, and even the sky has texture. Next. The wildlife all over. So you don't have to live in the mountains. You don't have to have a cabin, although all those things are great. If you just love the outdoors, you love the woodsy element. This collection is for you. These animals in this all over are like 3 or 4 inches, but they still have all that detail in them that's in the big ones. And they're on a background that is our square dance fabric, so our square dance design. So it's just enough texture to set them off without detracting from them, but so much better than a solid. Next. Mountain Pass. So we've taken the mountains and made them on all over. So it's a fantastic background. It's backing. It's great for borders, for big blocks. It just brings all the colors from the collection into this one. Next. So for the first time, I have 4 coordinates that are really small texture designs, and they're small enough that you can put them in pieced quilts, little pieces, sections, as well as borders and larger areas. But this has really been fun, and I love this texture and the variety that we have in this collection, as well as the colors. This one's called Mazed Texture. Next. Here's the Diamond Geo stripe. So there is a hint of stripe here, but it's not in your face. So you don't have to worry about direction, if you're cutting it in blocks, what direction they go. It'll go either way. You can mix them up. Doesn't have to be the same. But look at the depth here, and it just gives you a wonderful geometric design on a really small scale. Next. And then we have teeny little diamonds in multicolor. And again, this is so much movement and design element, but really small. And so you get these wonderful colors, and it works with all the colors in the palette. Is all part of that. And just something totally different than what I've done. I'm just really excited about it. Next. This is the slate. So this is the teal slate on the left is what's behind the boxes. And then we also have the black that's in the box panels. And then we've added a plum as another accent. And these, I just love the depth and movement in these 2 fabrics. Next. And here's the square dance. So that's the background of the all over. And so these really work as a solid because the texture is just enough to be texture, but without a design that gets in the way. Next. An echo. Oh my gosh, we are really, really enjoying this print. We used some bright colors and luminescent leaves, and now we have these deep, rich green, purple, and black, tan, cream, and then gray as our lighter. And look at the amount of movement in that. And yet it doesn't get in the way, as you'll see in the quilts. It's just a wonderful background. So we're increasing that palette, and we're kind of using it as a basic and really, really liking it. And it'll, all of these textures, as well as these tonals, are going to work really well with other fabric collections as well. Next. Wild and free. Okay, here's the free pattern. So we've taken the scenic part of the stripe, as I mentioned, and we've bordered the panel with that. So now you've got the scenic part around the entire panel, and then the geometric is that middle border, which really adds a lot of drama to it. I think it really gives a nice punch. The echo is the light cream in the background and also in the black. And then we've got the mountains in slate color. So this is a really fast quilt to put together. So it's great for gifts for any of your wildlife loving friends. Next. Cabin comfort. So this is the other way to do that. So we've got the panel without the scenic part at the top and the bottom, and yet you've got the stripe, then we've cut the stripe so it has the geo top and bottom. So it works beautifully to border that panel area with 4 sections of that stripe. So by the time then you add the green slate border, by the time you get out to that outer border, you've got a really pretty artistic quilt, and it's all really big pieces. So then you just add a simple, unusual checkerboard border for the outside. This is a larger lap, so it easily could be moved into a twin. Next. Wild idea. Here's a wild idea, cut the blocks out of the panel. So this shows the blocks used in a 10-inch square with that real nice geo framing it. We've got the scenic stripe top and bottom, a little bit of that diamond geo stripe in the border. And then all of these log cabin blocks use the geometric, the geometric aspects, the coordinates with the fabric. So we've got echo, we've got maze texture twice, we've got square dance, and we've also got slate. So those make up the log cabin blocks, and they are real interesting blocks without competing with the panel blocks. Next. Knock your blocks off. Take 4 panel blocks, cut 9-inch square, and that shows you how you've got that. You can see how you've got that black frame around it. And then the mountain pass is used in the other blocks. So this looks like it could be a fair amount of piecing, but they're large. It goes together really fast. So you've got large 4 patches and lots of flying geese and a few triangles thrown in. So again, this will easily be made into a twin. It's a large lap. Next. What's for dinner? The pattern is written for a table runner and 8 placemats because you're going to use 2 panels. So you get the blocks as the feature for the panel and for the runner, but the piecing is really fast and easy because we don't want anything to compete with that focal square from the panel. So when you've got 8 placemats, you can certainly give some as gifts, and then it's easy to just make more out of that pattern and use them for gifts all the time. So for any of your wildlife or nature-loving friends. Next. Maple Tracks was designed by Irene Smith, and it features 2 traditional blocks alternating with rows of the fussy cut stripe. And I think this is just a really fun way to use that stripe, very differently than anything actually I'd thought of. So I really like what Irene's done with this. Next. Mountain Mist, designed by Bound to Be Quilting. The majestic mountain blocks are made using a quick half-square triangle process. And again, look how nicely she's done those panel blocks. And then with the stars, this is really an unusual quilt, an unusual setting. And it features the fabric nicely, and then using mountain pass in the borders. She's done a tremendous job. Next. So this is contact information. If you want to take a quick picture with your phone, you'll have it to be able to contact me on website, Facebook, and Instagram. And now I've got some actual pieces to show you in person. So this is on Dragonfly Wings. This particular collection is shipping any minute. So this fabric was designed using a digital process that actually gives it a watercolor effect, and then with hints of an overlay of pearlescent. So it's enough, I'm not sure how this lighting is in here now, it's enough to really make those dragonfly wings look like they're fluttering. And these are spatter fabrics, so they've got that touch of pearlescent in them. Here's the back with the overall medallions that are also part of that collection. And again, a little bit of pearlescent in those. So we're really excited about how beautifully this printed. Don't miss it. Then we have our Wild and Free. This is the actual quilt, so you can see these pieces large. And here is the stripe that we cut from the scenic part to border the panel. And then you can see that echo nicer, and then that narrow border really makes those borders pop. So this is the Wild and Free download pattern, and here's the back to show that wildlife all over. And we've used just actually a scrap of the stripe in there for fun. And then this is tonal squares from Xanadu. We were really tight on fabric to be able to make these quilts. And here behind me is cabin comfort. So this is the other way to use that panel in a stripe. So we don't use the scenic here, but then we use it here with the border of the geometric top and bottom. And then it features and makes this really, really pretty center of the quilt. Again, with very little time for sewing needed. And then a checkerboard variation in the outer border. So we're excited about all of this, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Anne. So moving on, next up we have Irene from Sugary Dew with her Happy Notes collection. The vibrant colors bring a lot of happy to these fabrics, while the playful illustrations and graphic designs give the projects a perfectly charming feel. So first we're going to take a quick look at the video, and then she'll tell us all about it.
I am so excited to share with you today Happy Notes, my newest fabric line. Happy Notes, the collection, is based on the book that I published last year. Happy Notes, the book, was created based on everything, all the little things that makes us happy. There's a whole sampler in the book and a ton of foundation paper piecing patterns and some other extra projects. And based on this book, the idea of all the little things in life that makes us happy, the happy notes in life, I created now Happy Notes, the fabric line. This is a collection of 20 SKUs, and there is a warmer range and a cooler tone range, and they all blend so nicely together, also with my previous fabric line, Ruble Boogie. So let's go over all the fabrics and tell you a little bit about it. This is Plenty Friends, and Plenty Friends, as you see in the back, there's also a block. I will get to that later, but all the patterns for this collection will be free. There's also a quilt block based on this print, so lovely little Plenty Friends. And this one comes in blue with green and green with green. And here we have Tea Please. And Tea Please is one of my favorites from this collection. It's a very special fabric. I asked all my followers on Instagram to send in an image of their favorite coffee or tea mug, and I put them all in this fabric, so a lot of the people will recognize their own little mug of coffee or tea. Yeah, so that is Tea Please, and Tea Please is available in blue and also in orange. And then we have Happy Quilting. Happy Quilting is a fabric with white lined print on it with all the sewing accessories and sewing machines in there. It's in light blue and also in yellow over there. Then we have Tringeling. Tringeling is a print with little telephones, the old-fashioned telephones, and this one comes in dark teal and in bright pink as well. Then the next one is Brushes, and Brushes is for all the creatives out there who are multi-passionate, so not only do quilting but also are very arty and creative with paint. So here we have Brushes, and Brushes is also available in pink as well. And then we have Picture Perfect. Picture Perfect has a little camera on there and the outlines of cameras as well with little dots in between. And from the cameras we also have a quilt pattern that is in the same figure as you see in the fabric. And camera, let's see, we have it in this light teal and also in the lightest purple. Here we have Plenty Friend again. So there we have the green. Let's put those together. The green and the blue Plenty Friends. And here we have Bubble Bath. Bubble Bath is a lovely dot in various sizes, which is in a bright happy green and also in orange over here. This one is called Mail Day, and Mail Day, yeah, sending out snail mail is just really a thing that gives that little happiness to life, right? Getting post is just a happy thing. So here you have mail envelopes that are open, closed, letters, and some paper airplanes. And this one is in green and in a dark purple over there. Then we have this one, which I really like how it turned out. It is called Octadot. The name that it got in the line is Blender Octagon Stripe. So it blends all the green and teal colors together with a little octadot. And from afar it looks kind of like a dot, but it actually is a octagon shape. So this one is wonderful for stripes, for a binding, for maybe a border around your quilt. It's a really fun fabric. And this one comes in this green teal variation. Let me show you that right away. And it also comes in this orange pink variation. So two sides of the colorway with that octadot. And then we have another one that comes in those two ranges of color. So here we have dot dot, and the dot dot fabric is also a blender with colors. So the little dots blend from the teal bluish color to green, and then back to teal bluish color. And that's the same for the pink orange one. So here we have those orange colors and then to the pink. So this is a wonderful background fabric, and both versions available for both sides of the fabric line. And in all the blocks that you see on the wall behind there, they all have this little dot dot fabric as a background. Then we have here Bubble Bath in orange. So we have it in a bright green and in this bright orange. And there is the tea fleece in orange. This one is also so fun. It's quite subtle, but it's really a fresh color. Yeah, just a really happy print. It makes me so happy how it turned out. Then we have the Happy Quilting in yellow, which we also had in light blue. Tring-a-ling, we have it in bright pink, and that one was also in dark teal. And the brushes that we had in teal are also in pink. So this was called Brushes. And then we have the Mail Day also in purple. Lovely purple color, which I did not have in my Ruble Boogie fabric line. So purple is new in the Sugar Doo fabrics, but it really blends nicely together with Ruble Boogie as well. And here we have Picture Perfect. So the little cameras in purple. Yeah, so those are the fabrics in my line, but there are actually two more available. And those two I have over here. Very excited about these. These are double wide packing fabrics, and they have the Happy Quilting print in a tiny bit larger scale than the one that is in the collection. So here you can see a little bit the difference of the one. So this scale is a little bit larger than that one from the collection, and that double wide is available in a nice neutral soft gray and a beautiful fresh teal. This would be perfect for all the backings of the quilts in this collection, and and also in other quilts. I think it's really versatile to use this. All quilters will recognize everything in the prints. It's a really fun one for the backing of the quilts. So let me take you to the board and show you some of the blocks created with these fabrics. So here we have some Plenty Friends blocks, and all these blocks will be turned into different quilts. All the patterns of those quilts, that is something very exciting with this collection. All the patterns of the quilts that I'm going to show you will be available for free on the Shelley website. So yeah, all the patterns can be downloaded for free with this collection. Fun blocks with the Happy Notes fabrics. And in some of the blocks I paired them up with some Benartex Superior Solids. And there are some bigger quilts in there, and there are some mini quilts. So let's move on to the quilting patterns and tell you all about those. I am so excited to
Perfect. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Hi there. For those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Irene, and I'm a quilt designer from the Netherlands. And I am introducing, like you saw, my second fabric line with Benartex. Happy Notes. Thank you for all the comments. It makes me really happy that you're so excited about it. I'm really excited about this new fabric line. In the video, I told you all about the fabric, so I wanted to quickly run through the patterns that I designed with it. And then you have all the information about the fabric line. Let's see, let's go to this screen. Yes, and then we go to the slideshow. There we go. So Happy Notes, we already saw the video, so let's go to the next slide. There we are. So all the patterns, like I said, will be available for free on the Shelley website. This is a mini quilt, which can also be turned into a pillow called Say Cheese. And these are foundation paper piecing blocks. And this is a really fun one also to do quilting in, to maybe try out some ruler work with your quilting. It's just a really fun, super-sized foundation paper piecing block. Then we have Plenty Friends. I guess this is my favorite quilt from the line. So it fits really well with the Plenty Friends fabric, and you can make it in small and in big. And yeah, it's just a really fun one to make. And you also see the borders, how the octa dot striped fabric works as little sashing or borders around the quilt. And then we have the Follow Me quilt, which is a bunch of foundation paper piece arrows. And this is a perfect foundation paper piecing beginner quilt because you make the same beginner-friendly blocks many times, so you can really practice your foundation paper piecing skills. And then when you have made all the arrows, then you can play around with them. Like you see them in the corner on the top, you see them flying out freely, but you can play around with this design a lot. So this is for the big quilt. And then the last one I want to show you is this one. This is the Follow Me Mini, and this can be made with a 5x5-inch pre-cut. And then you can turn this into a pillow or in a mini quilt. And this is a lovely, fun, happy rainbow project. So as you see here, I used the Octodot as a binding, which also works really well because of that color flow that you have in that fabric. So yeah, that is those are the patterns for the collection. And the collection that is now in store is Robo Boogie. And Robo Boogie is my first collection. It's also really fun, happy, bright rainbow fabrics, and it goes really well with this one. So it blends together nicely. So there we have Happy Notes. Happy Notes will be shipping to stores November, December. So we don't have to wait so long for them. Yeah, that's it. Back to you, Stephanie.
Great. Thank you so much. And I'm amazed. I knew that those collections would look nice together, but now seeing them right next to each other, they look absolutely beautiful.
They go really well together.
Wonderful. Okay, so now we're going to take a quick break from our presentations and do a poll. For those of you that are attending live on Zoom with us today, please answer the poll question and you will have a chance to win a fabulous fabric prize. In the past, we've only ever given away one prize per session, but you've asked for more and we've listened. So you will have a chance to win one of 5 different pre-cut bundles from today, and it will be fabrics from the designers that you're seeing here today. So be sure to answer the quick poll question. Keep in mind it's anonymous. We won't tell anyone what your budget is, I promise. And once everybody's had a chance to answer that, we'll move on to our next presentation. Okay, so now let's go ahead and move on to our next designer presentation. So Lisa Ruble has been a part of the Benartex team for many years, but now she's here in a new capacity to introduce her first fabric collection, Find Your Way. Her love of the outdoors and modern quilt design come together in this debut collection. Please enjoy this short video, and then Lisa can tell us all about the fabrics and the projects.
Hi, I'm Lisa Swenson Ruble, and I'm so excited to be sharing my new collection, Find Your Way. Hiking is a lot like quilting. There are many paths you can take. Both are about the journey and not just the destination, and you can soak up so much beauty along the way. As this fabric collection evolved, I realized that I was finding my way, creating modern-looking prints with subtle nods to my love for the outdoors. Let's look at the fabrics. First, cairns, stacks of stones that mark the way. Next, traverse, a stripe in gentle gradations. Then my favorite, wander, which is a maze-like interpretation of hiking routes. And last but not least, waypoint, so you can always find your way home again. The palette is made up of my favorite colors, deep teal lakes, glorious sunset hues, and the grays of boulders along a mountain path. And here's a quick peek at the quilt patterns for Find Your Way.
All right.
All right, Lisa, go ahead. Let's hear all about it.
Thanks, Stephanie. It's always fun from the designer perspective to see those videos because it's something that Benartex makes behind the scenes, and it just feels like Christmas to see them come together with all of the, the little moving digital fabrics and all of that. So I get such a kick out of that. So hi, I'm Lisa Swenson Ruble from Quilty Zest, and I'm really excited to be talking about my first collection, Find Your Way, today. A little bit about me. I've been quilting for about 24 years. I started quilting when I graduated from college and no longer had homework to do at night, so I needed a new hobby, and I picked this up from my mom. I spent 8 years as a quilt magazine editor and have freelanced in the quilting industry for the past 13 years since then. And it kind of feels like I'm coming full circle doing the fabric line, because all the years that I was a quilt magazine editor, I was seeing everyone else's lines and working with pattern designers to create quilts using those lines. And I would think, oh, if only this collection had X, or if only this collection had Y, it would be so much easier to work with. And now I'm on the other end trying to figure out what I need to put in that collection to make it easy for quilters to use. So it's kind of fun being on this side of it, and also, you know, a little overwhelming, but I'll talk a little bit more about that as I show the fabrics. But after I started quilting, I fell in love with modern quilting, especially improv quilting is a big favorite of mine. I love the technique. I love teaching it to quilters, and it's actually how I taught my my kids to quilt, because you don't have to worry about 1/4-inch seam allowances or matching points. So I was one of Benartex's first ambassadors, as well as working with them on some other things. So you may recognize my name or some of my work from those type of things. And under my Quilty Zest name, I have a little more than 25 patterns available. And I also have a fair number of tutorials on my website as well. I live in Battle Creek, Michigan with my husband and 3 boys. And like I said, I taught them all how to quilt. And my youngest, who is 10, really loves YouTube because he's in that, you know, that age group, that generation. And so he's appeared in a couple of my sewing YouTube videos and aspires to have his own YouTube channel, possibly sewing, I think. So you may see him again in the future. So that's a little bit about me. I'm going to switch over to my presentation and keep talking. Okay, so there's the Find Your Way, the initial screen. And then this is my family that I mentioned. This is us on a couple of our outdoor trips. We're big into the outdoors. We like to ski, bike, hike, all kinds of things. And we've taken 2 big camping trips out west. One, we went to Yellowstone and Grand Tetons. And I actually was able to connect with Ann Lauer in person while we were in Montana, which was really cool. And also Rocky Mountain National Park. So you can see outdoors is a big part of my family's life. And I'll talk about my fabric line. You'll see how that connects. And so then just here's another look at the 14 SKUs in the fabric. And when I started working on this line, I knew 3 things. First, I wanted it to have a modern feel. And second, I wanted it to be quilter friendly with a range of values and fabric scales to work with, as well as quieter prints where you could rest your eyes. And third, I knew that it very likely would need to have teal in it because that's my favorite color. And you can see hopefully I feel like I hit all 3 of those, but for sure number 3, because you can see multiple prints that have teal in them. So many fabric lines have some type of theme, whether it's cats or sewing notions or flowers. And I really struggled with this at first when I started talking with Jessica, one of the art directors at Benartex, because the possibilities seemed so endless and I didn't know how I could narrow it down. But she really helped me kind of figure out how to kind of narrow it down to a particular theme, even if it is maybe a theme that only I see in it. She was a great help to me in putting this whole first line together and holding my hand along the way. So as I started playing around with designs, I realized that this theme was emerging. And like I said, I may be the only person that notices it, but I think after today, you'll see it as well. And I named the fabrics to reflect that theme and kind of bring in the outdoors. I named it Find Your Way because as I was going through the process, and feeling overwhelmed, I started finding my way and creating modern looking prints that had these quiet nods to my love for the outdoors. So I'm going to pull up each of the prints individually and talk about their names and kind of what they mean. So the main print is called Cairns, which is a hard to pronounce word. And I first learned it when my husband and I were backpacking in Australia. And it you know, with the Australian accent, I wasn't sure how I should pronounce it as well and struggled. And so when I actually started working on this line, I had to Google it and use that the speaker so that I could hear the correct pronunciation so that I was saying it correctly. But I have an aunt whose name is Karen, and so it just helps me remember that Cairns is like Karen. But what it means is a stack of stones that mark the way along trails. And if you've been out hiking, sometimes you will see a little tower of stones out along the path, and that's would be one of those cairns. And I really love designs that have a spiral look. And these rings of dots and circles are no exception. I enjoyed additioning the colors in all the rings, and I love how there's so many different combinations of colors in those rings. It was a lot of fun to play around with the colors and make all those rings really pop. And this print, as you can see, comes in a light background, a dark background, as well as the dark teal tonal that has all of the different teal colors in it, as well as gray. This is a great print for borders and quilt backs and focal squares in the center of quilts. And then next is traverse, which is both a hiking word, a car, and if you're from Michigan, the name of a city, but up here they call it Traverse City. But for this line, we'll call it traverse. And this is a stripe, which comes in the two colorways you see here, and both of them have a really cool gradated effect to it. And both of these colors would be great for a binding or for a border. And I love the effect that you get going from light to dark in each of them. And you'll see how I use them in my quilts in a couple minutes. And then Wander, as I said in the video Stephanie showed, is my favorite of the prints. I consider it to look like a maze, sort of an interpretation of hiking routes. And if you've ever hiked with kids who are complaining that they're so tired and can't keep going, hiking routes can feel like you're on a never-ending maze, especially when you're at the top of the mountain and have to come all the way back down before they stop complaining. So this print comes in 7 colors. You can see the 3 values of teal, turquoise, aqua, the 2 values of yellow, and then the 2 values of orange. And what's really neat about this print that I learned when I was working on the colorings for it is that it has a completely different look whether you have the darker value in the background, which it is in the lightest teal, the darker gold, the lighter yellow, and the lighter orange, or if you have the darker value in the front, which you see in the dark orange and the darker 2 teal colors. It just, if you flip-flop those, it gives you a completely different print. And I had so much fun playing with the colors in these that when I was experimenting with colors, at one point, I had 30 different color combinations of this print, and then had to go through the difficult task with Jessica's help of narrowing it down to the 7 you see here. But I very happily could have 30 different colors of this print because it's just a lot of fun and looks really great in a lot of different elements of a quilt. And then last but not least is the quiet background print, which is called Waypoint. A waypoint is a reference point that lets you know where you're going. Super important when you're out hiking, along with, maps. And these groupings of 3 tiny squares come in the 2 color options that you see here, the white with a couple different grays in it, and then the gray with, of course, the teal dots on it as well. And these prints have just enough action to add interest without being an overwhelming design. So really nice for backgrounds, for quilt blocks and that type of thing. And so here are the quilt patterns that go with my collection. This is quadrangles. It's the free pattern. And it uses all 14 SKUs to create a scrappy rectangle design. And this will be available for download on my website, quiltyzest.com, when the fabric is available. And it's a lot of fun to put together because you can copy mine exactly as you see here, or you can use your own color combinations either within each block or once you have the blocks assembled and kind of play with what colors look good together. It's just a quilt you can play around with a lot and kind of be the designer for the layout. This is Trail Map, and it uses a much narrower colorway. It uses all of those teal prints that I love so much, and then the whites and the grays. And it's made up of flying geese blocks of varying sizes, from large all the way down to teeny tiny. And it creates a modern directional design. And I have my arrows or triangles sort of alternating, but you can play around with however you want to lay it out. I also tried creating a digital version of this quilt using the oranges and yellows, and that's really a fun combination as well. But as I've mentioned several times, teals are my favorite, so I stuck with the teal version for this. And then we have Travel Together, which pairs each of the darker and lighter coordinates together. That ended up being a sort of a happy accident that I had all these pairings that worked together where I had a darker and a lighter version. Like I said, I knew I wanted to have a variety of values, but when I started pairing them up for this quilt, it worked out perfectly that I had just the right number of pairs to make this design come together. And then, of course, that beautiful deep teal background that lets all of those linked squares pop off of it. And then the teal cairns for the border. And then Follow the Sun. So this uses my Strippy improv technique, which is a combination of improv pieced strips in the background and then reverse applique that creates the sunshine shape over the top. And what you can't see on the digital version, because I didn't know how to make it happen, but what I have on the actual quilt, or what I will have on it when I get my sample fabric and make it, is a little chenille edge, which goes around the outside of the sun. And that gives it great texture. It's little bias cut strips of fabric, and they'll be yellow. And then after you stitch them on, you rub them, and then it creates that chenille look that I think we're all familiar with, me from like my grandma's bedspread type of thing. So it's just the kind of the icing on the cake for this quilt design. This quilt would be great for a baby quilt or even just a cheery wall hanging. And then the last but not least, because this is definitely my favorite of my quilts, this is the Postcard Views Trio. And these are 3 wall hanging size quilts that reflect some of the outdoor scenes that I've either seen exactly like this or seen versions of in some of our outdoor hiking adventures. The middle one in particular is kind of near my backyard, not literally, but I'm about 45 minutes away from Lake Michigan. And so this is Lake Michigan with the sun setting over it to the west and the sand dunes. And then on the left, you see the River Gorge quilt, which shows a river and sort of like a southwest looking scene with some of the red rocks that there are out in Arizona and southern Colorado and Utah and that type of area. And then on the right are the mountains that I love, also from out west, showing a moonlight scene. And these quilts are all made with raw edge fusible applique. So honestly, it takes longer to trace and cut out all of those shapes than it does to actually assemble the quilts together. But when I started working on the line, Jessica said to me, think of a quilt that you want to make and then design the fabric for it. And while that wasn't quite the order that it worked out for me, when I started dropping the fabrics into that middle quilt, specifically the Lake Michigan one, I knew that I had found the quilt that really kind of defined my fabric collection. And then I have a couple of quilts that were made by some other designers that I just love how they turned out. This is Birmingham by Tammy Silvers. And it's got a fresh, modern feel that embraces the traditional aspects of patchwork. And I love the palette that she chose for this quilt. And then Building Code by Laureen Smith. I'm a huge fan of log cabin blocks, and she's got 2 different colorways of log cabin going on here to give it a contemporary twist. And then Dreamer by Amy Lawless. This is a fat quarter friendly pattern that has a controlled, scrappy look to it. Just a lot of fun. And Zigs by Everyday Stitches. And this features an innovative method to piece the triangles, kind of like strip piecing with curves. And I'm so intrigued by that method because I just think this is a fantastic looking quilt. So it's really fun to see what other people do with your fabric and see areas that they play into that you wouldn't necessarily have thought of yourself. So I love all 4 of these designs. And then this for me, I know I used icing on the cake already, but this was the true icing on the cake when I got my my sample strike off yardage, the first little bits, to see my name and my my pattern company name on the selvage of the fabric. That was just, it still sends shivers through me to see that. So it was, being my first line, it was really exciting to see that. So I of course took a picture of it and just wanted to share it with you all. And so here is my information if you'd like to follow me. Of course, this is the week with me being on Virtual Fabric Showcase that my website decided to misbehave. So my actual website address is quiltyzest.com. But at the moment, the one that's working is quiltyzest.squarespace.com. So, but you can also find me on Instagram at Quilty Zest, or on Facebook, search Quilty Zest, and keep up with, find your way there, and I'll be sharing more pictures of the quilts as I make them and shops that carry it, all that kind of thing. So that's a great way to keep informed about that. And then I'm going to stop sharing my screen and go back to the live. And I have the 3 quilts behind me from Postcard Views. This is what I made with, I had just a little bit of fabric from the sample yardage. So here's my leftover pieces folded from that, but I was able to put together these 3 quilts. And then my friend Diane Oakes quilted them. And I love how they look, and they make me so happy to see them. So these patterns will be available, and Benartex is also offering kits to quilt shops for this pattern, so you can make all 3 of them yourself. And then I also have this is my little sample version of the sunshine quilt. When I only had a little tiny bits of fabric, I just made a little mini version of my sunshine. And then my last but not least show and tell right here is I used some of the maize fabric to make myself a little applique rainbow t-shirt. So I'm going all in on find your way in all aspects of my life. But that's it. Back to you, Stephanie.
Great. Thanks so much, Lisa. So now we're going to move on to our next designer. And Andi Metz has 2 fun collections to share with us today. Making Music will inspire you to create projects for any music lover. And Enchanted Forest celebrates all of Andi's favorite things about fall with fun and whimsical details. First, a short video, and then Andi can tell us more.
Making Music was fun to create. It's a colorful collection of everything music. From the instruments to the notes, it brought back so many memories of me being in the high school choir and the musical plays, and my mom making the costumes for the plays. As I said in the past, I like to include art that reminds me of my family since they're so important to me. And in this collection, I had fun adding a little tambourine for my husband who makes wooden percussion instruments. In the boxes pattern, the panel, you'll read my dog's name written in the music. I created a commercial pattern for this collection with a little game to help kids understand the beginnings of reading music. And then I also created a musical quilt that's pieced. The second quilt I have is piecing and applique. The keyboard itself is pieced. My sister sewed this quilt for me and thought I was nuts designing a pieced keyboard, but I love the way it turned out. The Enchanted Forest collection has everything that reminds me of what fall is and makes it such a special time of year. From the sunflowers that I grow in my garden to the mini plaid in 3 colorways, there's something for everyone in this collection. What makes this collection special to me is all the animals that I see out my front window in my yard are included in this fabric. Although I did take a few liberties and I put some deer in sweaters and scarves, just adding to the warmth of the images. I created a free quilt for this collection, which is fast and easy to make. And I made 2 commercial patterns. One is fall placemats and a table runner, and that does include applique. And the other is a centerpiece and 2 cozy covers. So the cozy covers are meant for a 13x9 pan or an 8x8 pan for serving. They're not meant for hot items, but it makes your table nice and decorated for fall. I love these collections, and I hope you do too.
All right, Andi, do you want to show us what you've got behind you? I see lots of quilts.
Yes, I have lots of fun stuff. Thanks, Stephanie. So this is the Jazz It Up quilt that I talked about that has a pieced keyboard and applique music notes. The staff line is also pieced, but it turned out really great. The pillow that goes with it, I did in the blue fabric. I'm partial to the blue, but I thought for the quilt, it might look better for red for maybe a music studio or something like that. This is just a little mini quilt my sister made with the box prints, and they have fun little sayings on them. And I don't know if you can see, this is the musical game mat, and you make little, you have music notes and cards with the actual letter of the note on it, and you can teach your child how to read music or talk about the beats. These are the beat cards here. So it's a fun little game. It's an easy to make, and this is not pieced. This is just with heat and bond. And this was a last minute quilt that I made. Actually, I take that back. My sister made it for me, and I'm so very thankful because there's no way I'd be able to make all these by myself. And she helped me check the math on the patterns, but this is a pieced musical note and then the chain. So I thought that was really bright and fun to make. And in addition to this for this collection, my mom made her tea towels that she's famous for. And they're very cute and bright. And my sister also made this quilt that looks a little modern, and she used the gray, just the plain solid gray for that. Can you see that? I can't tell if you. Okay. And just because she had a little leftover fabric, she decided to adorn her dogs, and she made a little dog collar with the music fabric. And for the music lover that has to go to the music studio or their music class, I made this little bag. I didn't finish writing the pattern yet, but it will be on my website. And what it is to put your sheet music in. And so you carry it in the bag, and then you can keep your sheet music in here. If you want to put it on the stand and rest your music in front of it, you can. And you can put pencils and any extra items you have in there when you're going to the music studio. I had a lot of fun with this collection. It was just so bright and fun. The other collection is Enchanted Forest, and I was so excited to do this. And similar to Anne and having the animals from your yard, all the animals that are in my yard that I've seen, with the exception of the coyote. I didn't think he was part of the Enchanted Forest. I put, there's the deer and the sweaters. I've seen the owl and heard the owl often. I have the fox, the squirrel, the bunny, the pheasant. And then, like I said, I took liberty with the deer and put them in scarves and sweaters. And this is the toss of the animals. So there is the panel, boxes panel, and you can make a 16 by 16 pillow. And this is I think it's a 10 by 16. There's 2 of them on the panel. My sister made these adorable little pumpkins. Whoops. And once again, the tea towels out of the stripe. So you can see the deer in part of the stripe. And then all the extra animals in the yard are in the other stripe. I made that video because I don't have the centerpiece and the cozy covers because I sent them to Benartex. They're going to go to Quilt Market, but you saw them in the video, so I don't have them live to show you. But the centerpiece is, you can decorate any way you want, and you could actually move the dividers if you choose to. This is a cute little table runner that, once again, my sister made. If you ever want to see the stuff she made, she's Daisy Quilt and Craft on Instagram. And I'm just so very thankful that she makes all these samples for me. This is the free pattern that's available on my website, which is andimetz.com. And this is a quick, easy, kind of scrappy quilt, but it's a nice throw size. And I'm learning how to free motion quilt. So I just did a very simple scroll on here. And I had taken up my extra fabric because my sister has the sewing machine. So she took some of the scraps and made this. Are you able to see that, Stephanie? So I thought this turned out really great, and you're able to see a little bit of all the fabrics in here. And then what is out now for me right now is Happy Llama Days. And I have this cute little llama doll that you can find on my website that you can decorate any way you want with the saddle and cute little eyes. And then I think the other collection that's out right now is Island Time. And the free pattern for that is on my website. And I like this one because I put a little fringe to make it a little bit shabby chic. And I think that is it, Stephanie, other than, oh, I have these. The free pattern for the, back to the Happy Llama Days, is Christmas stockings. And there's also a pattern for a tree skirt, 2 different sizes. And that should be in the stores now. Both of those fabrics should be in the store now.
All right. Thanks so much, Andi. And I have to say, it was very cute how you peeked through the hole of your tree skirts.
I didn't do that intentionally.
But it was adorable.
Thank you.
All right. So for our final presentation today, we have designer Shelley Cavanna sharing her Among the Wildflowers 2 collection, full of bold, life-size florals and stunning shades of blues, teals, and a touch of green. Unfortunately, Shelley couldn't be with us live today, but she did send a video for all of you to enjoy.
I'm Shelley Cavanna of Cora's Quilts. I'm a textile and quilt pattern designer, and I write quilting books like the Barn Star Sampler and the Flower Farm Sampler. Today, I'm excited to share Among the Wildflowers Volume 2, my latest fabric collection with Benartex, coming in the summer of 2025. Among the Wildflowers 2 is the sister collection to Volume 1, which began shipping to stores in September of 2024. While this first volume was filled with warm, sun-kissed prints and a berry-inspired color palette, Volume 2 pulls some of my very favorite lakeside-inspired colors for a cooler tone collection that works brilliantly for both summer and winter projects. The prints in both collections were inspired by mountain meadows filled with vibrant blooms. They celebrate the sheer joy of slow stitches and handwork and the beauty found among the wildflowers where creativity blossoms with every stitch. Among the Wildflowers Volume 2 features a vibrant summer lakeside color palette with an eclectic mix of bold, life-sized florals, delicate blossoms, and hand-stitched textures. With prints perfect for modern and contemporary quilters alike, your project will flourish in the wild beauty of this enchanting collection. Our main print features a super bloom of wildflowers, combining all of the florals we used in each of the individual prints. Poppies is the first of our mid-scale florals, featuring blooms in shades of teal and indigo blue against a bright white background. Primrose, our second mid-scale floral, showcases more berries and blooms against soft indigo, teal, and aqua backgrounds. We've also included a lovely soft gray option as well if you're looking to add an icy touch to a wintry quilt. Paper Whites is a modern take on the classic ditzy flower design, and it acts as the perfect bridge between our floral and textural prints. Sketchbook features a selection of pressed flower silhouettes, while Tin Lantern features delicate hand-stitched motifs. Finally, Meadowsweet is a lacy tone-on-tone print rounding the collection out with a lovely yet subtle texture that balances out the busier prints. I'm excited to share that we're also bringing back the main wildflower prints as a supersized 108-inch wide backing option as well. These blooms measure over 5 inches tall and are perfect for your quilt backs or for fussy cut and applique projects as well. The deep indigos, icy aquas, and vibrant green prints in this collection are some of my favorite colors to design with, and I think you'll love the quilts we've put together to show them off. 2025 marks the 10th anniversary of our wildly popular Selkie quilt pattern. We think you'll fall just as deeply in love with this lakeside-inspired rendition, featuring that gorgeous Meadowsweet and indigo print as the background fabric. Gathering is another favorite quilt pattern that seems like it was made for these prints. I love how the secondary stars created by the background fabric mimics the motifs we used in the Meadowsweet print. When I think of wildflowers, I'm always reminded of my larkspur quilt. I love the juxtaposition between the modern lines and the soft, cross-stitch inspired shapes they create when they come together. I am so excited to share that we've put together a brand new supersized quilt pattern that combines both our Stardust and Stargazer designs into a single pattern. The pattern includes instructions for both the modern offset and traditional centered versions of the quilt. And my favorite thing about these quilts, they're made using only squares and rectangles, along with the stitch and flip techniques we introduced in my Spectacular Stars Simplified book. So there's no bias edges, no Y or inset seams, and no templates or cutting angled pieces. If you can sew on a marked line, then you can easily make either of these two starry quilts. If floral-inspired quilts are more your thing, you can keep yourself surrounded by wildflowers all year long with Winter Haven, our brand new 12-month Block of the Month project. This quilt was actually inspired by our Winter Haven cross-stitch project and is super beginner-friendly. I love how the quilt gives you the illusion of a round, hand-stitched project that is made using only squares and rectangles. And finally, we've had so many requests for an updated version of our Frost Flowers Block of the Month project, and I think this fabric collection is the perfect fit. The second edition of our Frost Flowers pattern features the same gorgeous blooms against that traditional Irish chain setting and really shows off the depths of those gorgeous indigo prints. And of course, we'll be sharing an updated version of our Frost Flowers cross-stitch project with the new color palette to go with the pattern as well. I know that we've shared so much information in this video, so if you're hoping to come back and take a closer look at any of the prints or the projects, you can find them along with the collection's lookbook, both on the Chorus Quilts website and the Benartex Fabrics website. I hope you've loved the prints and quilts featured in my Among the Wildflowers Volume 2 collection. Please ask for it at your favorite quilt shop or contact your Benartex sales rep to order today.
Okay, so that completes all of our designer presentations today. We're going to move into the Q&As. We're going to go through those fairly quickly because we are about out of time for this session. But I know that some of you asked questions and I want to share those with the group and have the designers answer. So Anne, there's two questions for you. First is, what was your color inspiration for this collection? Was it a particular season?
Think mostly just thinking of wildlife, mountains. The colors are what I see around me. We don't have we have pine trees and greens, and we have rocks and dirt and mountains. And I just love purple and always add a little purple to almost everything.
Okay. And the other question we had was about wide backings. There's not a wide back for this collection, is there?
Not at the moment. I'm not sure that there won't be, but we've just finished it. So we're not sure all the decisions have been made yet.
I do have a suggestion though, because we have our washed wood wide backs that I think would look really great with this collection.
Okay, great.
And you can see those on the Benartex website. The next question, Irene, will your fabric line be available as a fat quarter bundle?
Yes, it will be. And there will be a fat quarter bundle and a 5x5. Yeah, so at least those two, and maybe also other pre-cuts.
Great, thank you. Oh, and then Cynthia also said that she thinks you're a relatively new designer. Didn't we see her last time presenting her first line? Yes, you did.
Yeah.
That was Robo Boogie.
That was Robo Boogie, true.
All right. And then, oh, Misty mentioned, Lisa, she mentioned about your website. So could you tell everybody again what the current website is to use?
Yes, it is Quilty Zest, QUILTYZEST. And then at the moment, .squarespace.com. But in general, it will be quiltyzest.com as soon as the website gremlins are done having their fun with my website.
Technology is great when it works, right? Okay, and then Andi, a couple of questions for you. What are the rings that you use to hang those quilts? Because there's definite interest in how you hung up those quilts. Oh, Andi, you're muted.
I just bought them from Amazon, and I think they might be 1.5-inch rings with the clip on the end. I had 1.25 or 1-inch rings before, and they scraped up the rod, so I got the bigger ones.
Okay. And then your website is andimetz.com, correct?
Correct. And all the free patterns are on there.
Okay.
And commercial patterns.
And also, does your sister have a website? I think she's just on Instagram, right?
On Instagram, Daisy Quilt and Craft, and I believe the picture is of her dog, Daisy.
Okay. There are a few questions about being able to access the recordings for this. Those recordings will be available through our website. You'll be able to go to benartex.com, go to Virtual Fabric Show, and be able to rewatch the recordings of this and all of our sessions. And then one last question. Irene, will you be doing a sew-along anytime soon?
So along with the new fabrics, yes, so currently we are still doing a quilt along with Robo Boogie that is completely free on the Bernina blog, so blog.bernina.nl.com. So there's a quilt along with the Robo Boogie, and as soon as that finishes, or by the time this one is in store, I would love to do a quilt along with the Plenty Friends blocks or with the Follow Me pattern. So yes, for sure. And if you want to be the first to know about that, just follow Sugary Do on Instagram, and then you will know when a quilt along will start.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, so I think we got all of the questions answered. So I'm going to move into our closing. The first thing I want to do is congratulate our winners. We posted those in the chat, but I'll go ahead and read them out. Joy Tangerone, Dawn Graham, Lana Richardson, and Bernadine Miller, you are our winners for this session. So we will reach out to you to get your mailing addresses so we can send you a fun fabric surprise from one of the 4 designers that were here today. And then I have a few announcements to make. The first one, and somebody did ask a question about this, is about our ambassador program. As Lisa mentioned, she was a 2023 ambassador and is actually one of our Benartex now, as she's stayed on to continue to do projects for us after her ambassador year. But our 2025 applications are open right now. You can go to our website, benartex.com, and see all the information about them. And it gives you a whole list of all the perks of being an ambassador, plus all of the responsibilities. And there is a form for an application. Those applications are open until November 1st. And then another fun announcement, and Lisa is going to join me in this one because Lisa is the editor and in charge of our Fat Quarterly publication. And we put the Fat Quarterly out 4 times a year, hence the name Fat Quarterly. It is a 12-page publication with several projects and also a swatch pack of fabrics to get you started on those projects, designer interviews, lots of fun things. And it is subscription-based. You can subscribe on our website. But starting in January, Lisa, do you want to tell them about what we're going to do?
I'm sure. We're going to come back here for some lives. So for our subscribers to the Fat Quarterly only, we're going to have a special live session for each issue of the Fat Quarterly, where we talk to the fabric designer of the fabric that was featured, talk about the projects that were in the issue, and maybe have a couple other surprise guests just to give you a little behind the scenes and a little greater detail about what is in that particular issue's Fat Quarterly. And our upcoming winter issue, which will be our first live in January, features Kimberly Einmo and her Upwards collection, which was one of the designers in yesterday's virtual fabric showcase. So if you missed hers, make sure you pop over and watch the replay of that on the Benartex website.
Thanks, Lisa. So as she said, we are going to have a live. It will be sometime in January. In order to attend that webinar, you'll have to be a subscriber to the Fat Quarterly. So if you go over to our website, you can check that out now. And I think that's all of my announcements that I have. So I want to thank everyone for coming to our virtual fabric show. We really hope you've enjoyed seeing all the fabrics and the projects and hearing from our talented designers. And also remind you to ask at your local quilt shop for any of these fabrics. They will all be shipping anywhere from December timeframe of this year until mid-year next year. So ask at your local quilt shop. And I wanted to let you all know that our next session will be starting at 3:45. So please come back and watch the next session. And a special thank you to all of my designers that came today to share their fabric collections and projects with you. Oh, and Lisa, I don't know if you've seen the comments, but the way you were just sitting, the sun behind you was like a perfect crown. You planned it that way, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I have a tiara. That's great.
All right, thanks everybody. Please, I'll let everybody say a one last goodbye, and then we'll close out this session for today.
Thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you.